In today's video, we are going to be working on this Mustang here. We're going to be going over everything that we need to do to take this engine and move it rearward to get better weight distribution. So stay tuned. Welcome to another video. We are back in the shop. I feel like I haven't done a video out here for a little while. We've been doing a lot of autocross events, and no, I have not changed the color of my car. This is one of my friend's car. It is still a 94 Mustang. But yeah, there's a lot of work that I'm kind of doing to it to get it ready for the autocross season. But one of the things that we're going to be working on today is taking this engine and moving it rearward. The easiest way to move an engine back is by having an aftermarket K-member, which this car does. It has a Maximum Motorsports K-member in it, and in that K-member, it has two locations for the engine mount. So it has the stock location, and then it has one that's 1 inch rearward. So we are going to lift the engine up and move it to that rearward position. It's not just as easy as just putting it in that one and everything's good to go. There are things that we need to check on the engine because we are actually moving the engine, so we need to make sure that everything is clearance. We need to make sure that the transmission has enough space to move back, that the drive shaft has enough plunge. We'll need to figure out that if we need to do anything with the exhaust. So there's a lot of things that we're going to need to check on this engine before we go about doing that. But this car also has the forward offset control arms, which move the wheel center, I think it's 3/4 of an inch forward from stock. So once we move the engine back and with those arms, the center line of the front wheels will be 1.75 inches more forward, which is going to help with the weight distribution by getting just more of that weight behind the front axle. So let's take a closer look at this engine. All right, this engine is a smaller Ford. It is a 94 Mustang, as I said. It is pretty much stock. So there has been some things done to it, but first things that you want to do when making sure that things can actually move rearward is just look at anything that is attached to the engine. So coolant, this is flexible. Steering, that's flexible. This will have to move a little bit because it's fixed. So I have taken the bolt out here to allow this to move rearward. Another thing is the coolant back here. So this one is just looped. It doesn't have the heater core in it. So I have tried to make more space for that coolant hose. Ideally, it would be great to just remove that completely since we're not needed, and that's what I've done on my car. But it's a lot of work to try to take all that stuff actually out and get the right fittings for the coolant temperature and all that stuff. So we're just going to make as much space that we can for that loop, and then any of the exhaust. So this car still does have the EGR kind of things coming off, even though it's not being used and it is just looped out. I think we'll just leave that on there for right now. I think he's talking about maybe doing some aftermarket heads at some point or a whole engine, so that will take care of that. Any electrical that is attached to it, just make sure that it is also flexible. Any space behind the engine, we just need to make sure that we have enough room for all these lines. So I may need to try to do something with the throttle one. I mean, it shouldn't kink. It should have enough room, I think, to move back, but just want to make sure that that's, got enough clearance. So that all covers the things in the engine bay. So let's take a look underneath of the car now. All right, starting in the front, really the only thing that we need to make sure that we have enough clearance is with that oil pan and steering rack, which it looks like we got plenty of room right there, so nothing to be too much concerned about. And that's about it that we need to check on the front side. It's coming down underneath the back side. So how they've modified the exhaust kind of makes it nice and easy. So I have loosened that up to put some gap here. So we may have to move this back some more, but that should be fairly easy to do. But the real thing that we need to look at is the tail shaft. Looking at the drive shaft going into the back of the transmission, looking at this space right here, so we can actually see that there is quite a bit available like plunge into the transmission. So I think there is going to be plenty of room to actually be able to move this transmission back. I've checked the angle of the drive shaft, and it's actually kind of close to 0. I think it was like 0.7 degrees. So the most that this is going to move in is when it's at 0. That's as far as it's going to move, because any other angle up or down is going to then pull this out. And we're talking about angle, of the rear suspension. So right now we are sitting on stands, so everything is loaded, which is good. Nothing is in full droop or compression right now. So I think we are going to be pretty good up there. The next thing to look at then is the bolts. So right here is the cross member for the transmission, and there's a little bit of gap. So I think we're going to have to do something with this cross member. This is a factory cross member. There are aftermarket ones, such as like the Stiflers, that have a little bit extra room, but I think we can easily, maybe modify this thing in some way to make it work, whether it's make these slots maybe a little bit bigger, or make some holes up on the upper part of the mount a little bit oblong, but we'll get that figured out. But this is probably going to be the main thing that we'll need to modify or kind of make work in this whole ordeal. So I think we're getting out pretty easy, so that's going to be nice. What is the benefits of moving the engine rearward? It's all about weight distribution. So if we take a vehicle, say it's 3,000 pounds, that mass then gets to the ground through the suspension, which then goes through the tires. So the 4 tires have to distribute that mass. If we take a typical front engine rear wheel drive production car, that gives us 60% front bias and 40% rear weight bias. Taking the 3,000 pounds through that then gives us 1,800 pounds on the front, 1,200 pounds on the rear. Then let's say we're able to move 1% of that weight rearward, so we'll now be at 59% on the front and 41% on the rear. Our weight now drops on the front and raises in the rear by 30 pounds, which coincidentally is 1% of 3,000. So any more that we're able to move is more weight going towards the rear. If our weight is higher, that means we will be moving more of that percentage rearward as well. So the benefit of moving the engine rearward is to get closer to that neutral balance, that weight distribution of 50-50% front and rear. It's difficult to get there because of these being production cars, but the closer we can, the better weight balance we will have with the car. In order to move the engine rearward, I'm just going to use an engine hoist. I'm going to lift it up, pull it basically out of the K-member, and then I will push everything rearward. So you've got to make sure that to disconnect the K-member engine mounts and the transmission mounts as well. Since the transmission holes were at their limit, I did end up removing that mount, and that's what the jack stand is holding in the back of the engine area. It's holding up the transmission. And then we'll push it back and get into the other holes, and then bolt it back into the K-member. The transmission mount needed a lot of persuasion to go back in. So on the cross brace, I did open those holes up just a little bit, but there was not much material there to actually do too much. So most of the modification was done on the mount that comes off of the transmission that the isolation mount then bolts to. I also opened up the holes a little bit on the isolation mount as well, but most of the modification was done on the bracket that goes off of the transmission. So it took a little bit of back and forth to actually get it to line up and to be able to go in there cleanly, but that is how that was all done. The engine is all moved back. The exhaust is all re-hooked up. On this car, it was super simple to do the exhaust since it didn't have a full axle over catback system. It just stopped before the axle. That was really nice. I did have to modify the transmission mount quite a bit, just kind of oblong the holes to be able to move that mount more forward. And yeah, that was pretty much it. The drive shaft does have enough movement in and out. I have actually already had to take the drive shaft out of the car to replace the transmission output seal. So as long as that drive shaft has enough to move forward, and then to get it out, that is enough plunge and things that you're not going to damage anything from just a cycle. I also did that with the car on its own weight. Highly recommend getting the Maximum Motorsports K-member to be able to easily move your engine rearward. It would be a lot easier to do this when you're actually doing the K-member swap, so we don't have to go about it later. But yeah, there's a few things to look at as we went over. Got another project that we're going to do on this car. Stay tuned for that. See you guys later.